Hey everyone, MTash here, and when I first started playing the campaign, I was not a fan of Strand on my Warlock. The movement wasn't great to me, kinda clunky, and I realized later that it was my fault. And I want to talk about making the grapple feel a little bit better, but also I want to talk about the subclass now that I've got a chance to play with the grenade, and I see a lot of potential with Strand. I'm not sure if it'll be the best thing ever, but we have a tiny bit of the utility. I need to go farm some of these different aspects. You can get a currency to buy them, but a lot of the really good aspects you can't get until the raid is completed. So this is going to be a shell of a subclass until it's fully unlocked. So keep your eyes peeled on a kind of full guide when it drops, but let me show you something really quickly so you have a bit more fun on Strand. Alright, so for some people this is going to be really obvious, but for me this was mind-blowing. It took me a while to realize this, but if I latch onto this thing, it's going to send me, I'm going to go flying, yada yada yada, we get it, right? However, depending on where you look and how you move your camera, you're going to interact with this very differently. If I'm running towards this thing and I grab it and I look this way, I'm going to swing in a much more horizontal, aggressive forward trajectory, okay? And you can gain a lot of distance with that. But here's the other beautiful thing, is if I stare at this, and I keep looking at this, you can hypothetically stay on here forever. And if I was to break the line of sight, I would then launch off. And so if you've been trying to run and gun and get away from different enemies, there's probably situations where you throw yourself off a ledge and you don't mean to. In some situations, you may be grappling and then going to take a quick look at where the enemies are and realize, this isn't where I want to land. You really need to kind of aim your camera to where you want to go. And you can do this if I'm just going like this and I'm looking at this and I want to land on this other ledge here. I could kind of go like this and it will propel me towards it. So this is something that I probably should have known sooner or tested sooner, but if you've been having trouble with the grapple movement, just play around with it a little bit and you're going to realize, oh, this is a lot smoother than I thought. In a lot of cases when I was trying to get up on a ledge, I could have just kind of looked like this and used it to go vertically. But if you don't have the camera, you might swing underneath it or bump into it and have a lot of troubles just doing basic traversal around the map. So that's one thing. The grapple is better than I thought, but I still think that it is a liability. Now, the grapple is fun for traversal, but honestly, I think that it's going to get thrown to the wayside as soon as you get into harder content. Yes, you could grapple in, do the charge melee, and hopefully they die. But if you're doing raids with the contest modifier on, if you're doing Nightfalls, you're asking to die. It's over. And so I think that the grapple is not going to be used in a lot of content endgame. But I'll tell you what is going to get used a lot. This shackle grenade is nuts. Alright, so suspension is insanely good. The area of effect on it is nuts. But the duration on it I think is pretty freaking good. Now, I think that we don't have a lot of the fragments, and it already is an insanely good tool to have. And when you start getting a few of those fragments, it's going to go to the next level. With a lot of grenades in game, if you go throw it at an enemy, they're going to move out of it, or they're going to dodge. And with something like this Conduit Minotaur, you might have a perfectly landed void grenade and they strafe out of it and it loses a lot of the value. But when you use something like this, they're locked down. You kill them. They don't get away ever. And I'm seeing a lot of value here, especially with those high threat targets like champions. One person on your team running Strand can lock them down, and it doesn't even have to be their grenade. Like, there's other ways to do it. On the Warlock, it's going to be a little bit different, but you can consume your grenade, and then final blows will actually suspend targets. You can do a suspending target. Like, this guy is locked down right now because I killed the harpies beside it. If I kill this one here, hopefully it's close enough. That one is now suspended, and I've got like 20 seconds of this. And so realistically, you can pop tons of different supers and abilities and just lock down the whole field even more. Looking at the aspects, Thread of Binding seems incredible if you've got a big beefy enemy with some trash mobs around it. By killing those enemies, you can suspend the larger target, but we can't get this until the world first race is done. And while they're suspended, laying into them and dealing damage will generate more energy for your grenades, allowing you to hopefully use it again. And with Thread of Continuity, you're going to increase the duration that enemies are suspended. So this is just another win, allowing you to chain these things together and essentially lock down enemies indefinitely. Well, until they die, because you're going to hit them with a rocket launcher, right? And now, I haven't played with all the subclasses, but you can see the Strand Hunter is melting bosses right now. I don't know if this is a bug. I don't know if it's because it's old bosses. I don't know what's going on here. But every boss that Glad runs into is just eviscerating almost instantly. Now, this appears to be a bug of some sort, but watch the enemy's HP bar. It just completely drops midway through. I don't know if there's like server latency or what, but this Hunter Super is destroying right now for boss DPS, and I wonder if they're going to have to disable it going into the raid. Now, obviously, some of the aspects and fragments and the synergies with these different classes will be different. I haven't had enough time to test the Hunter, but I've heard that the Hunter is even better than the Warlock, and the Warlock, I think, has some major potential. When all those fragments and aspects are unlocked, I think we're going to go to a new level. Is it going to be the best? Is it going to be the meta? I don't know about that, because there's amazing builds with the 3.0 subclasses. You can do insane area of effect explosions with the Voidwalker, or you can proc Devour over and over again, healing every time you get a kill. There's Jolt builds on the Stormcaller. There's Scorching builds on the Dawnblade, setting everything ablaze. And then there's Stasis, and there's even a new exotic for Stasis. And so there's a lot of different options, and a lot of really good options. And I'm not going to say that Strand is better than all of these options, but I'll tell you what it isn't. It's not trash. It's not trash like I first thought. When I jumped into the campaign and used Strand the first few times, I was concerned. I was sitting there and I was like, I don't know about this. The grappling hook feels like poop. And I didn't have all these different aspects and fragments. We are a shell of what we will be. But I have quite a bit of hope and faith and optimism. And one more thing I want to show you. Even if you get all of these different fragments unlocked, Strand is going to be mediocre right now, at best. Because some of the synergies that are available can't even be done until at least Tuesday. If you look here, picking up an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail. But when you have Woven Mail, Weapon Final Blows can create a tangle. And if all of these enemies are getting tangled, then you can grapple more, and you can throw them, and chain more damage, and there's so many synergies that we just don't even have access to yet. And then you have to wait also for the raid. A lot of these ones are from the World First Raid, and they're the next step, or the next level. So I think you can get a decent build going as of Tuesday, but until Tuesday, it is going to be lackluster. And I wouldn't recommend you do any of your major grinding using this. unless, I don't know yet, unless getting Strand kills increases how many of this currency you can get. I don't know if it does. I haven't confirmed it. I haven't seen it. But if you're trying to complete content, if you're trying to do the strikes, if you're trying to do a Nightfall, I would use the other subclasses until that raid is done. Next week at a minimum. So that's where I'm at. I have a lot of hope for this. I'm excited for it. I think it's got a lot of potential. And I guess one last little tip about Strand is if you're going to be unlocking Strand, I would be spending all this currency on one subclass, because if you do, you can then unlock this quest. You have to unlock all Strand upgrades on a single class. If you're spreading it out over multiple, you might have to wait a week or so to catch up and be able to do this exotic quest. So that's pretty much it from me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon, my friends. Bye-bye.